Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and get us started while you're enjoying your cheesecake. Hopefully, you know the reason you have cheesecake is because those steaks were a little bit small. All right? I don't know if your table got steaks, but I'm going to try to move things quickly today so that most of you won't be asleep after eating those big steaks and cheesecake. So I'd like to call our meeting to order. Bill, you've got my name on this agenda a lot. I noticed your job was just to say lunch. But I'm going to call the meeting to order. I do believe we have a quorum. Bill, that's correct. So, and actually we're going to get started with someone who's much more talented at speaking than I am. And I've got the pleasure today to introduce him. He's our Speaker of the Indiana House of Representatives, Todd Huston. Just a couple things to tell you about Todd before he gets up here. He was first elected to serve House District 37 back in 2012, and is obviously currently our Speaker of the House. He's previously served as a member of the House Ways and Means Committee and has been a big part of crafting Indiana's biennial budget. In fact, in 2019, he authored the state's budget, which included a historic investment in education, over $760 million in new money for grades 5 through 12. He's obviously passionate about education, previously served on the Hamilton Southeastern School Board, as well as the Schools Foundation Board. In addition to that, our former governor, Mitch Daniels, called on Todd to serve the state first with a 4-year term as a member of the State Board of Education, and then from 2006 to 2009 as a member of the Indiana Education Roundtable. Also served on the Fishers Planning Commission, as well as the Indiana Leadership Forum Board of Directors. Speaker Huston has also been recognized with a Guardian of Small Business Award just last year from the National Foundation of Independent Business, as well as the Champion of School Choice Award from the Institute of Quality Education just this year. So please join me in welcoming the Speaker of the House, Todd Huston.
Well, thank you. It is great to be here. Last time I was supposed to be here back in December for the US 30 meeting, and I was on the big screen as I was at home after my little COVID experience. So it's much, much better to actually be here in person. Thank you, Bill, for the invitation. The Northeast Indiana Chamber is truly one of the best chambers in the state of Indiana, if not the best, and appreciate your leadership and Dent for the nice introduction. I'd be doing a disservice to me and my colleagues if I didn't first begin by noting the outstanding members of the Indiana House that represent this area of the state. It always makes me a little nervous and anxious I will forget somebody. But let me just note, and if they're here, if they could please stand. I'm going to begin with first Matt Lehman. Matt would be here today, but Matt is our majority leader, and Matt and I and a gentleman by the name of Greg Sturwald are the elected members of our caucus leadership, and Matt is representing me at Representative Sturwald's father's funeral today. So Matt isn't here, but we have Dan Leonard. I saw Dan here today, Bob Morris, Denny Zent, Ben Smaltz, Dave Heine, Chris Judy, Martin Carball, Dave Abbott, J.D. Prescott. Did I miss anybody? Makes me nervous. But look, I will say, if you think about those names, just tremendous amount of experience, lots of committee chairs, real influence makers in our caucus, and I just thank you so much for your service, and I'm proud to be the leader of this team. And I want to take a note to also recognize the leader of the House Democratic Caucus and my friend, Phil Giaquina, who is also a terrific representative of Northeast Indiana. So thank you for your service. Sometimes we have to carry the weight of the other side of the building, and they are actually terrific members too. So I know Sue Glick, Justin Bush, Andy Zay, Liz Brown, and Dennis Cruz and Travis Holman. I think some of you are here. Thank you so much for your service. Again, Northeast Indiana is incredibly well represented. A couple of former legislators that are both friends and have done a tremendous amount for this area. Former Senate President David Long and former Representative Randy Bohr. So thank you for all your service. Surely Northeast Indiana has been so well represented through the years. So look, I won't lie to you. I saw that stake come by and I thought, oh God, these people are never going to stay awake for my speech. So I've been to a lot of these events through the years. Not once has the speaker ever sat down and thought, man, I wish that guy would have talked longer. So I will try not to be the guy that does that to you today. But just a quick background for many of you that maybe don't know me. I did grow up in Fishers, Indiana. It was a small town back then. FFA was the biggest program in the high school. When I grew up, people have a hard time believing it now because now you drive by and you see Top Golf and IKEA and all the other stuff. I was blessed to grow up in Fishers. An awesome and amazing, wonderful wife, Denise, and 2 kids, a 21-year-old daughter, Elizabeth, and 19-year-old son, Jake. My family's always been a part and believed in community service, and we will continue to believe in that. As noted, I've served on a school board, a planning commission, basically anything in which people in the community won't like you, I volunteered to serve. It's good practice for this job, as a matter of fact. But to me, I always tell people the most important things in my life are my faith, I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, my family, my friends, and the opportunity to serve in public. And if you want to know who I am and what I'm about, I hope those 4 things do define me. You know, it is a privilege to serve my community and our caucus as the Speaker of the House. It means so much more to me because of the love I have for both the community that I serve and the people I get to serve with. And there's not a day that goes by I don't feel blessed. I'm not sure I feel blessed that the day I was elected Speaker of the House was the day the WHO declared a worldwide pandemic. I'd like to think those 2 things are not in alignment, but it certainly made the last year memorable and an experience that I think none of us will ever forget. So I thought I'd just take a few minutes to note what I've learned from Northeast Indiana and how it's impacted me. Because there are some important lessons, I think, that have been learned. So in 2015, we began this process called regional cities. And I was noted, was on the Ways and Means Committee, actually was the author of the bill that had the tax amnesty program that funded the regional cities program. And I won't sit here and lie to you, and I think I'd be disingenuous if you know me and say I was not the greatest champion of the regional cities program. I kind of looked at regional cities and thought it sounded like a lot of disparate projects not connected through infrastructure and governance, and kind of held that opinion for 4 years. And then I had a reason to start coming up to Northeast Indiana, and got a chance to talk to people like Bill and so many of the great business leaders that represent this community. And I really began to learn the importance of the regional cooperation that takes place, the alignment between businesses, philanthropic entities, organizations like the regional chamber, to make the whole region stronger. And I just commend you for that, because it took a guy like me to come up and experience it, to see the work, to see the partnerships that take place from Steuben County to DeKalb County, to Allen County, to Wells County, and all the 11 counties, to say, hey, this is exactly what we need. And when I had the opportunity to experience it, to see the projects that you guys are doing, working with so many members of the delegation on things like the Regional Cities Project, but things like Electric Works too, it really informed me of the importance of what y'all are doing and how the state can be a partner to that. There was a meeting earlier this year where I went to Governor Holcomb and Senator Bray and I would meet on Wednesday mornings, and one morning I walked in, and as my staff would tell you, I have a tendency to read a lot and think a lot, which they don't like either. And I got to thinking about some of this and thought we might have some room in our budget to do some things. And I walked in to Governor Holcomb, and I said, and Senator Brand, I said, look, I'd like to begin thinking about how do we do the next form of regional investments. And there are some things I think we learned from regional cities. I think that were important to take that learning experience and do it. And I said, but I also have to acknowledge I'm probably the last guy you would expect, because I was the guy in 19 who pushed back against it, the guy in 17 who wasn't thrilled about it. And thankfully, David Long, Brian Bosman, Tim Brown, Luke Kenley, all were smarter than me. And so that really began the genesis for what the $500 million investment in the READY grants is. It's because I saw the impact that you guys had here. Our caucus saw the impact of what's taking place in Northeast Indiana. I want to be fair with this. North Central Indiana and Southwest Indiana. I've had a little more experience up here. And took that, and that's the foundation of the readiness grants. And so I thank you for that. I think our state will be better. I'm optimistic. This is really, I think this word's used way too often. It really is a transformational investment. One of the deals that we had and our caucus talked a lot about was making sure this isn't just passing money around. It's making people earn it. You earned it. You earned the investment last time, the $42 million investment. And I'm confident this area in this region will earn it again. And so I thank you for that. I thank you for that knowledge. I thank you for your partnership and showing a person like me how you can make these types of investments really to matter to people and communities. The other thing I learned was this little road called US 30. Now, weirdly, I have spent a lot more time in Northeast Indiana than most people would realize. I was saying to somebody today, there are events in your life that we all share together, and you go, where were you when such and such happened? Well, one of those events, I think, for a lot of people of my age is, where were you when O.J. Simpson's verdict was announced? I was in the Honeywell Center in Wabash, Indiana. I walked to a bar to watch it. Just one example of the number of times I've been in Northeast Indiana. I know where Angola is. I know where Columbia City is. I know where DeKalb is. And these are great communities. But I didn't understand until talking to the members of our caucus and members of your business community the importance of US 30 to this region. And so I'm pleased that we've been working hard as a caucus with our Senate colleagues, with the administration, to make sure that you will see significant improvements on US 30. Now, you don't just... Now, I want to be, I always want to be candid with people. It's not going to be solved tomorrow. We have to take it in chunks, and clearly there are some chunks that are more important than others along that route to fix and get improved. But I appreciate, I'm going to mention, I try not to do this, but I'll name someone specifically. Dave Hiney's been on me about 24/7, right, Dave? About the importance of US 30, and we've been able, I think, to make progress. It's one of those projects that we think has a tremendous economic investment. As we look at where we put our money, I'm a huge ROI guy. This has the exact type of investment. So, it's fun to come to places. I'm a learner. I love to read. I love to learn different things. It's fun to come to places, and every time take away nuggets on what you can do and what we can do better to support people across the state. I've never been more optimistic about Indiana. Never. I mean, we're the only state in the Midwest that's bringing in people. We're the only in-migration state in the Midwest. And I'll tell you, population is the game changer right now. And investments like the readiness grants and the work you're doing, and I know you guys measure population and set that as a key goal, is so critical. We're the only state in the Midwest doing that. We have the lowest unemployment rate and the highest participation rate in the Midwest. A year ago, it's frustrating from a business perspective that we have the employment, finding employees, and supply chain issues we have today. But I'll tell you what, if you asked me a year ago, I would take this all day long and 6 days of Sunday. because the other alternative I think a lot of us were afraid of was we'd be looking at a recession or depression. So there is so much activity taking place. We continue to have both important expansions, and this is a huge aspect for us. Are we expanding our Indiana businesses? We're going to make investments next year in the legislature, I hope, working with our Senate colleagues to take away and reduce taxes in areas that we think is going to allow our Indiana-based companies to grow while also attracting companies across the country. We're a turnstile, as you could imagine, of people coming out of Illinois and Michigan. Matter of fact, interestingly enough, coming up I-65 from the south is another place we're growing population. There are so many positive things that's taking place. While the rest of our neighbors are backfilling bad decisions, we're investing in infrastructure, whether that's above the ground or below the ground. We're investing $250 million in broadband grants. We invested, for multiple years, I went around and talked about $763 million investment in K-12, which blew away anything else we've ever done in 2019. We put in $1.09 billion this year. We are making investments in things that other states can't invest in. Most importantly, we're working cooperatively, I think, across the state with your leadership to get things done to make this a better place for people to live, work, and play. And that's what we think about in the Indiana General Assembly all the time. And I think it's the thing that drives us. And I am so grateful and thankful for the leadership that Northeast Indiana has had in that process. I'll just finish with this thought. Every day people come up to me and they talk about challenging times and the political dialogue and the discourse. And I think as noted, I love to read. And if you read history, none of this is different. None of it's different. It's the same change, same challenges, just different issues, because we're all people. And so we can navigate and work through all this together. But every day we have an opportunity to make a difference, or we could just complain about what's happening in the world around us. And by being part of this group, by being part of the Northeast Indiana Chamber, I know what you've chosen to do. You've chosen to work on continuing to make Northeast Indiana a great place to live. Make sure it's great for your family, for the families around you, for your businesses and your community. So I thank you for your commitment to Northeast Indiana, and I thank you very much for allowing me to join you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Okay, we're going to get down to some business. Like I say, I know those stakes are still working on you, so we'll move quickly. Jeff, let me call you up to the stage. Jeff's going to help us ratify our minutes from the 2019 annual meeting. So, Jeff.
Hello. Today we've got on page 10 of the annual report, we have the annual meeting minutes. And I would ask for a motion to approve the same.
We have a motion, and then we have a second.
Okay. So being moved, there's any discussion? Without having discussion, if we could have a vote. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, same sign. Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Back to you, Doug.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay. Next on the agenda, I'd like to announce the recent results of our board elections. And just like to remind you that, in fact, we've elected 2 classes of directors because of our bylaws. We didn't have an annual meeting last year, and so our current directors basically have to stay in place until new directors can be elected at the annual meeting. So we've actually got 2 classes that I'll talk about today. The first is the class from 2020 to 2023. And so we have Scott Glaze, who's the chairman and CEO of Fort Wayne Metals, Ben Miles, President, Health Plan Services and Chief Advocacy Officer at Parkview. Arlen Friesen, President of Ambassador Enterprises. Michael Vanover, President and CEO of Clean Fuels National. Brady Dubois, Chief Executive Officer of Lutheran Hospital and Lutheran Rehabilitation Hospital. Brad Smith, President and CEO of Hagerman Group. And Michael Connell, General Manager of Cardinal IG. So welcome to the board, to these new directors. I'll also mention our directors from 2021 to 2024. Eric Ottinger, Executive Vice President and Chief Commercial Banking Officer at Lake City Bank. Myself, Vice President at Do It Best Corp. Joe Urbanski, President and CEO, Farmers State Bank. Sherilyn Emberton, Chief Executive Officer of Huntington University. Jeff Harding, who just was on the stage, owner of Holler and Colvin Attorneys at Law. And Roger Cromer, President and CEO of Crossroads Bank. So welcome to all of our new directors, and congratulations on your new posts on our board. Okay, so Pat, I'll call you up to talk about the financial report.
Thanks, Dan. So on page 11 of the report in front of you, you have the results of the 2020, which are the audited results by Baden. Obviously, 2020 was an unusual year, but two people really did an outstanding job. Bill did an outstanding job for us in maintaining membership as well as locating new members. And Aaron Whittle does an outstanding job for us in the accounting work and our financials. So you'll see on page 11, we've done a great job of maintaining membership and maintaining fairly strong financials. On page 12, you'll notice up at the top, we've been able to maintain revenue, which again for 2020 I think was just outstanding. They did an outstanding job of managing expenses, and even Stephen went full-time for us in there, and we were able to keep the expenses level. You'll notice on other income expense, that's the US 30 Coalition. We were able to grow our cash balance and reduce our accounts receivable. So I'm very pleased to present what I consider to be very strong financials. So Chairman, I would move that we would accept the 2020 financials as presented.
Thank you, Pat. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on the financials? Okay, hearing none, I'll call the vote. So all those in favor of approving the financial results for the last year, please say aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay, motion passes. Finally, for our final business for today, we'll need to approve actions of the board over the last year. So if I could get a motion to approve the actions of the board. Thank you. Can I get a second? Thank you. Any further discussion on the actions of the board for the last year? Hearing none. For all those who approve the actions of the board for the last year, please say aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay, motion passes. I think we're moving on to my comments, Bill. And if for those of you who know Bill, you got to speak ahead of Bill. You don't want to speak behind Bill. So I'm going to get a few quick points in before turning it over to Mr. Kanya. And really, I'd like to just start with a few acknowledgments of the folks in the room today. And in fact, really just talk about our partnership that we have with our entire delegation here in Northeast Indiana. Really over the years, we've been doing incredible things. Some of those were mentioned here today. But we've passed over 35 key items, many of those from our legislative agenda over these past 3 years. And none of that would be possible without each of you, but also the collective work that you've done to represent this part of the state in an excellent fashion. So just want to say thank you, and I'd like to give you guys a round of applause. Also like to express gratitude to our governor, our lieutenant governor, as well as the Speaker of the House for working with us and our delegation on critical issues. Two that I'll mention in particular, the work on US 30, which in my mind is something we've been talking about for at least a decade, maybe more, and now things are finally moving. And so a lot of excellent work done on that front, as well as the expansion of broadband. Again, a big subject that I know at least I've been talking about here for many, many years. And we finally are getting some traction due to the hard work of all these folks that I've mentioned here today. I'd like to also acknowledge some of our board members. I don't know if you say you're retiring if you're quitting the board, right? But they finished their term on the board and are going to move on to serve in other areas. But just a couple to mention, David Finley, President and CEO of Lake City Bank. David has served on our board for many years, has done an excellent job for us. Jerry Lee Mosier, the Chancellor of Ivy Tech Community College, is also moving on from the board. And Robert Pearson, President and CEO of Heartland REMC. So thanks to all of you for your service on our board, and we really appreciate it. I'd like to give special thanks to a fellow who's not leaving the board, maybe wants to, don't know. Andy Brooks. Andy, are you here somewhere? I thought I saw you earlier. In the back. Andy has just done incredible work. He is the guy who has been running our policy committee. How many years, Andy? All of them? All of them. But really, this is kind of the core of the development of our legislative agenda every year, and Andy has done an excellent job leading the way. And that group has gone through a number of transitions. We've tried a number of different paths to really land on solid legislative agendas, and I think it's been improving every year, thanks to a lot of excellent work by Andy Brooks. So Andy, thank you. Andy's going to pass the torch to Mr. Todd Holman, who's the CEO of Pizza Hut here in Fort Wayne. So Todd, congratulations. Those are big shoes to fill, but we know you'll do an excellent job there. And, you know, I'm going to talk about Bill. What do you say about Bill Kanya? I'll tell you, this is a tough job. Bill is one of the most timid individuals I've ever met. And so I've really had to coach him up these last couple of years. How to get a lot more aggressive. Is he doing okay on that so far? But no, Bill, all kidding aside, has been an excellent leader. Certainly represents, I'll say, not just the, you know, sort of nearby areas, but really the entire 11 counties in a way that is really impressive. And he does a good job keeping us centered, keeping us on task, staying focused on our mission. And Bill, both you and Stephen deserve a huge round of applause for an amazing job this year. Stephen, man, I don't know how you do it. A year of the, what did you call it, the plague earlier, Bill? A year with COVID and dealing with Bill every day, that's a tough task. But you've done an excellent job, and I know you're really the key to organizing not just these kind of events, but really everything we do as a board. So thanks for the job well done. And really just a couple of comments from my side, kind of reflecting on my experience here the last couple of years, and I won't spend a long time, but really have grown to appreciate in this role just the relationships that we have with our delegation. It's incredible. I mentioned that earlier. They do incredible work for us, but I can tell you I've never had any sort of trouble getting quick reaction, quick response, and huge levels of support for anything we've asked of you, and we really appreciate that. Sometimes the job you do is not always popular, but it's important, and just want to say thank you for everything you've done. We've gone through a couple leadership changes at the State House, but we really haven't missed a beat. And, those things don't always happen. But really, I think that's a testament to the strength of the overall delegation here in Northeast Indiana and to the new leadership who's doing an excellent job. These last 15 months have been interesting for all of us in many different ways. I never thought I'd be an expert on Zoom or Teams or Google Meets or all those things. And it's really kind of awesome to mute someone, right? So even through those sort of challenges, we really didn't lose focus. And we'll say that's That's probably been the most impressive thing. I mentioned those two key subjects, US 30, rural broadband. Those things really didn't get any more traction than they got in these last 12 months, and that was in a very difficult environment. So just really impressed that some heavy lifting got done, and a lot of the people in this room are those who we have to thank for that. I was reflecting on the speaker's comments a second ago, talking about the investments in regional cities. And we want more money flowing to Northeast Indiana because I think we've proven we know how to get things done. The business leaders in this room, our delegation, really the entire community, we know how to execute on a plan. We've got grit, we've got savvy, and we know how to execute. We've proven it. So I'm very, very excited to see some more money coming our way. We'll put it to work in a way that was some serious return on investment. And really just proud through all the challenges we've had to stay true to the mission of the organization, our three pillars, and our core focus areas, our next big thing. All that work stayed on track through some interesting times here over the last 15 months, and really I'm just happy to have been a part of it. So just thank all of you for the support you've given me. And Bill, I'm going to turn it over to you for some comments.
Well, I suppose you're all wondering why I asked you here today. It's only fair to begin by stating that Speaker Houston took 2 of my 5 pages of notes and Dent took the other 2, so I don't have anything left to say. The easiest thing that for me to have done today was to come up here and to acknowledge the fact that with everything that happened to us over the past couple of years, beginning with the plague and closing our office in the middle of March of last year, the easiest thing to have been for us to do was to say that we didn't miss a step. We kept going. But that wouldn't be true. We killed it. We absolutely killed it in the past year and a half. And we did so because of the partners and members with whom we work. My main mission right now is to make sure I thank everybody who hasn't already been thanked, and I don't know if that's possible. Everybody in this room deserves a debt of gratitude. What we accomplished since December of last year with US Route 30 is absolutely amazing. And our entire delegation rose to the challenge, and we had some help from Northern Indiana and calls that they made. But as Speaker Houston said, we had a real champion and have a real champion in Representative Heine, who is even more aggressive when it comes to that than I am. I greatly appreciate everything he's done in that regard. I also want to thank, because they're here today, they care about us. Congressman Jim Banks actually has 2 people who have joined us. Tanisha Weigelt, his district director, and Landon Porter, his field representative. Would you both stand up, please, so we can see where you are? Mary Martin, my good friend, the regional director of United States Senator Michael Braun. Thank you very much, Mary. I knew I'd call on you when you were gone, Tanisha. I also want to acknowledge some help we've had from local elected officials. Representing the US 30 Coalition is Mayor Joe Thallimer. Joe, are you here today? No? Well, he's the head, the titular head of the US 30 Coalition, who has really kind of led this parade. I'd also like to acknowledge Mayor Ryan Daniel, Columbia City, who has also not only worked with the US 30 Coalition, but has been the liaison between the Mayor and Commissioners Caucus and our Policy Committee. I also want to thank Mayor Steve McMichael, who is the current chair of the caucus and a gentleman with whom we have worked and we will continue to work and accomplish, I hope, great things. During the past couple years, we've worked diligently, not only with Speaker Houston and our delegation, but throughout the entire legislature. And we've had help doing that. Most of our help has come from Catalyst Public Affairs, who actually is a sponsor here today. They actually manage our affairs in Indianapolis. They do a great deal on our behalf. They make certain that I'm on the right path, and they pull my chain back when I'm not. And the three gentlemen that we work most often there with are Matt Bell, Tony Mitson, and Scott Carr. And I don't think any of them made it here today for various reasons, but we certainly appreciate their leadership and their guidance. We also have members who are partners. We have 11 members from the Lido Council. We have a number of Lidos here. Gentlemen and ladies, would you please stand up and let everybody see where you are, please? We also convened 15 members, local chambers of commerce in the Chamber Coalition in Northeast Indiana. We have a bunch of chambers here. Would you please stand up as well? Thank you. We've accomplished what we've accomplished. As Dent said, we've passed or successfully opposed 35 items in the last 3 years. None of it would have been accomplished without members of our delegation, none without the Chamber Coalition, none without our members. One of the big things we can always count on is our voice being heard in the halls in Indianapolis, especially when we present a letter signed by CEOs of almost 100 organizations. I mean, our voice is heard, our voice is appreciated, and it is appreciated because it's the voice of private sector business. I thank all of our members today. I want to suggest that we have a couple staff people that really need some special recognition. Dent started, but I want to point out that Aaron Whittle, our contract CFO, has done an amazing job not only in bringing us into the 21st century, but improving our technology, giving us tools that our management can use and our board can use to make certain that we make the financial progress that we're supposed to make. One of the greatest measurements, I think, is that the board has set a goal for us to have 6 to 9 months of operating reserve on hand. We've had as much as 14 months of operating reserve on hand. Now we're starting to spend that down, and we will finish the year as we're supposed to, with somewhere between 6 and 9 months. Aaron has done an amazing job. Aaron, I am deeply grateful to you. I can't say enough about Stephen Towns. Stephen is the calmest, most level-headed person I think I know. I used to tell John Sampson that the reason he and I worked well together was he was one of the greatest servant leaders I had ever met. Whereas I, on the other hand, am a tactical nuclear weapon. You point me in the direction you want me to go, and I'm going to get there. And I don't care how I get there, but I'm going to get there. I don't know how Stephen manages to keep my feet on the ground and keep me balanced, but he does. Not only does he do that, look at this meeting. Stephen produced this virtually single-handedly. I aided and assisted a little bit, but this is Stephen's doing. He also worked to co-host the recent State Chambers meeting with all of our local chambers of commerce, where they presented the Vision 2025 report card. He works with Greater Fort Wayne to produce our policy preview breakfast, our third House forum, our legislative wrap-up. He also works on our own to produce our legislative kickoff reception. He also works with the next item on our agenda, which will be the second annual manufacturers breakfast. It is set. I have the date here somewhere. You'll get an invitation soon. We do that in partnership with KPC Media. And this year it will be at the Mira Center. and we are looking forward to having as many manufacturers and those who support manufacturers attend as possible. This will be the second year we have been a co-host, a co-sponsor, along with KPC Media. I don't think that we can state strongly enough the fact that we succeeded with another audit, and thanking Erin for the work she did with that, with also acknowledging the fact that Stephen does a lot of that back work. Make certain that receipts are presented, that things are proper and documented properly. So I personally would ask you to all join me in thanking Stephen for everything he's done for us. We're now preparing to begin work with our policy committee and our 4 subcommittees. One of the things Andy Brooks helped lead us to last year was an adjustment in our policy committee. We needed to involve more of our members, have more voices at the table, and so we created 4 subcommittees. And those 4 subcommittees are designed basically to identify either regulatory or statutory issues that they believe the policy committee should examine and then make recommendations to our board of directors upon. Those 4 subcommittees were tied into 21st century talent, whether it's developing it, attracting it, or retaining it. World-class infrastructure, such as broadband, such as U.S. Route 30, and I suggest the new emerging critical piece of infrastructure is early childhood education and development. And of course, competitive business environment. And last but not least, rural investment and agribusiness. Our policy subcommittees consider those issues, kick them up to the policy committee, who then vets them and then either recommends them be adopted as a policy or not. Once our board accepts them as policy and develops a policy agenda, we go to the Lido Council and ask the local economic development organizations to consider them and bless them. Last year, they blessed them 100%. We then go to the Chamber Coalition and ask them to do the same thing. Last year, the Chamber Coalition blessed our agenda 100%. And then we go to the Mayor and Commissioners Caucus. And the Mayor and Commissioners Caucus also supported us 100%. Happy to report that we, as a board, approved and supported the Mayor and Commissioners Caucus agenda as well. What we have is a group of private sector businesses working with public sector government for the betterment of Northeast Indiana. And the reason it's so critical and so crucial, this is the most manufacturing intensive region in the state that is the 3rd most manufacturing intensive in the country. We need good roads, we need good transportation, we need communication, instant communication, not only with our customers, but with our vendors and with our employees. And we need the assistance of our state, local, and federal government to accomplish that. I'm asking each of you to consider, is there a business that you know? Is there a vendor that you have? Is there a friend you have that thinks their voice should be added to ours? Because at the end of the day, the fact that it's the voices in this room that are heard. If you know of such a person, you know of such a business, please refer them to me. I'll be happy to call on them. We have 3 such businesses here today looking us over and trying to decide whether they need to consider us further for membership. The last item I will leave you with is each year when we send you your dues statement, we ask you to consider adding 10% in optionally to help support our advocacy program. Those funds go to Northeast Indiana Advocates, which we use, frankly, to support the friends who support us. I urge you to consider doing that again. As far as I'm concerned, that is one of the most important things I do. With that, thank you very much.
Yeah, that's the timid part I was talking about. Great job, Bill. This is actually the part of the meeting I've been looking forward to probably more than most. Here to pass the gavel. So after 2 years serving in this role. Happy to introduce you to your new board chairman. I'll just say a couple of words about Terry Redmile. Terry Redmile has been a good personal friend for probably 25 years, give or take. He's been with Michelin Tire Corporation for 27 years, the last 3 serving as the plant manager here at B.F. Goodrich here in town. So I'm going to let Terry talk a lot more about himself and what he's looking forward to in the new role. But I just want to say thanks again for all you have done to support our regional chamber these last 2 years. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Dent. And also a thank you to Dent for his leadership and his stewardship in his role as the board chair over these past 2 years. Let's give him a round of applause as well. You know, it is a privilege and an honor to serve in this capacity, and I'm looking forward to this opportunity and what this means. And he mentioned that I have had a career with Michelin that spans 27 years, which, looking back, is always a bit of a shock when I think through starting with a company and spending that much time with them. But I've had the chance with Michelin to serve in many different locations, in South Carolina, in Oklahoma, in Georgia, Alabama, and most recently here in Indiana. And I've been here now for 3 years, and I can tell you what I have seen through my travels, that we have something very special right here in Northeast Indiana. When you look at this motto up here, 11 counties, 1 voice, regionalism, there is real power in that. And I know that we have some prospective members in the room, and I hope that you have seen from today the value that can come from that. And we would welcome you into the team if you're willing to join us. For all of the members, and I'll repeat a little bit of what Bill said, but I think it's really important. You know, we say one voice. When we say one voice, that's externally. But internally, we need all of the voices of the chamber. So to all of our members, I ask that you please speak up. If you have a particular topic or agenda item that we need to hear, make sure that it's known to the policy committee, or even better yet, please join one of the subcommittees to make sure that your voice is heard. Because that is going to be what forms, as he said, the legislative agenda that we'll put forward. Now, at this point in the presentation, brevity is the call of the day, I believe. So we're going to keep this quick. Just want to do a quick recognition as well. I don't think I've heard it, but the job that Sweetwater has done to put this on. What a fantastic venue. So to everyone who worked tirelessly to pull this off today, thank you. Thank you to each of you. And now I look forward to carrying this momentum forward and creating more successes as we go. So there's one more formality before we can adjourn, and that is I need a motion to adjourn. Does anybody have a motion to adjourn? There it is. We have a movement. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.